tonight. Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you are here this evening. Lisa Mooney is my partner in crime tonight, and we have done this presentation a couple of times in the past, but this year it looks certainly a little differently than it has in the past, obviously just from the way that we are having to present it this evening virtually. So just a couple of things before we get started. If you could just make sure that you keep your camera and mic off, and that if you do have anything that comes up throughout the session, if you want to put it in the chat, we do have people monitoring the chat for us, or you can also use the little hand up button that's at the top of your screen. And if you click on that, that will let us know that you have something that you would either like to ask or something to share. So tonight we're going to start by doing our land acknowledgement. And this is one that the DSBN uses, and here at St. David's, we use it every day in our announcements and before we start any of our meetings. So we begin this gathering by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. So just to introduce ourselves, I'm going to pass it over to Lisa and let her talk a little bit about herself and introduce her to the crowd.
Okay. So hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. We do hope that you find this session informative. And we've tried to take all your questions that were submitted and incorporate them into our presentation as well. So hopefully you find it very useful. So to begin with, my name is Lisa. I have been chairing school councils at different schools that my son has attended. So 3 now at this point. And I have been the chair of the Parent Involvement Committee for the DSBN for the last 8 years as well. And then Tracy will let us know a bit about her background as well.
Sorry for that, guys. I'm playing with the screen a little bit here. I lost my volume button again. So I have been fortunate to have been an educator with the DSBN for over 30 years. And I'll let you do the math on that one. Love my job. I've been an administrator now at 6 different schools, 4 as principals, and I've enjoyed every single one. So it's a pleasure and a privilege for me to be here tonight to just share some of my experiences that I've had as I've gone through my journey with DSBN.
Great. I just want to add as well that Tracy has been the principal, the elementary principal on the PIC committee for a few years now as well. And she's been a great partner to have. Always so much information that she shares from the elementary end. And as well, when presenting these topics to school councils, it's gone very well, and I think that without Tracy's knowledge, there might have been some trouble. So we're very glad that Tracy is on our committee.
Thank you, Lisa. My pleasure.
Well, thank you. And then I see this one question. I'll just answer it quickly. So yes, Amber, we are expecting the slides to be on the PIC website after the presentation. So many of you may have attended the school council, or sorry, the PIC conference that we had in November in previous years. And we tried to always make sure that I'm just going to turn off my phone because I'm getting double beeps letting me know multiple people are saying things. So pardon me for a second. So yes, we are having this as one of our speaker series, and like the school council or like the PIC night, we do try to have our speakers share their slides and put them up on the PIC website. So you should be able to find that in a bit. And now on to school councils. So school councils is why we're here tonight. You may be aware of this, that school councils are legally required under the Education Act and under Ontario Regulation 61201/00. And I know that you're all very excited to read various acts and regulations just to find out if that's true, but it's there, and that's where we get our guidance on what school counselors are supposed to do and why we have them. And they've been established since for a while now, but really in about 2001, they have taken on the form of school councils that we see today in their current functions, as well as the Parent Involvement Committee at all school boards. And the point of school councils is to provide a forum for parents to share their unique view on how student achievement and improvement and performance can be affected at the school. So you're working in conjunction with principals and your school board on student achievement and how and how parents can play a role in that. And then principals and school boards must consult with parents on several matters. And then the school council can consult with principals and school boards on any matter, is how the wording is in the Education Act. Of course, we want to make sure that what we're asking of our school councils or our principals is appropriate to student achievement, even though it says any matter. So, asking Tracy to say, like, I like you wearing blue, please wear blue all the time, isn't necessarily appropriate, even though it's a matter that theoretically we could consult on. And we know, so school councils this year, it's virtual. So thinking about the way it is in virtual world, school councils, it is the foreseeable future. It is definitely what the DSBN has decided to do, that school councils and all of their board and committee meetings will be held virtually. And this is something that most school boards are doing throughout the province. I don't know a school board that isn't doing it this way, but I'm going to say most instead of all, just in case there is an outlier there somewhere. The DSBN's preferred platform for virtual meetings is Microsoft Teams. This is a web-based or an app program that you can be using. For my personal use, I say you download the app. So the app can be downloaded to your desktop as well as your devices. And then the app will automatically check for updates. And what I have found is that the updates are somewhat frequent and surprising with Teams. And when you go to host a meeting and haven't got the latest updates, it will mess with all of the things that you were used to. So staying on top of those updates is important. And again, with the app, it'll automatically check for those things. But Teams it's sort of a new situation for a lot of people. So if you are having issues with Teams, there is several ways that you can have help. So one, if you Google Microsoft Teams support, it'll bring you to this web page. And then you can see under resources, it has demos, it has quick start guide, training slides. So when you go into those, there's a lot of videos, but as well, there is some step-by-step instructions that can help you see how Teams works and the various setups that you have for it. And the principal at your school has definitely been using Teams for many things. So I think Tracy will agree. It was a PA day today. Had meetings over Teams today, and hopefully it was successful. But principals are used to it. They've also been sent a tip sheet to help them with any problems that they might be facing. So you can definitely speak with your principal if you're feeling that there's some issues with the Teams meeting that you've been having. But hopefully you're following the direction of your principal, who is then guiding you on using Teams.
Lisa, there is a question in the chat.
Yes, so I see, are we allowed to use virtual meeting sites, or is it against the board rules? Is this the one that
Yeah, that's the
from
latest
Allison?
one. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Go for it, Tracy. Yeah.
So it's my understanding that the preferred method is definitely Microsoft Teams. There has been some privacy issues with a couple of the other sites that have been used. Like Zoom is one that I know of that there has been some things with privacy issues with. So I would say in most cases that it really is going to be the principal or the vice principal that would be running the electronic part of the meeting, much like I'm trying to do tonight. So I really that responsibility. Although if you're a techie and it's something that you're really comfortable with and you want to assume that role, I think that's great. But if it's something that you would rather have the principal do, and the principal should be comfortable with that, because it is the way that we do all of our staff meetings. All of our meetings with the board are all done through this format. So it's like anything electronic. There can be times where things don't go as you want them to. But I think we all have learned to be really patient in the last 8 or 9 months that we've been working through this process of doing things online. So if you're not comfortable, I would say that it really is the administrator that would accept that role and be the person that runs that. And if you are a techie person and you want to do it, I think that's okay too. So I'm not sure if that completely answers the question, but I hope it did.
Yeah, I'm gonna boldly throw in that don't forget that you are a volunteer, and at your discretion, get as comfortable as you want with Teams, but it really, your principal, like Tracy said, they can run the technical portion of the meeting, because again, as a volunteer, you may only have so much time and effort to spend in this. I know I have several jobs and we're all using different platforms, different things. So, your time to figure out different pieces of technology may be very limited. So it's certainly understandable, and I'm sure your principal would understand you saying, I'm not comfortable learning another piece of technology right now. Please feel free to run the technical portion. And I imagine your principal will want to be the one sending out the email invite anyway, or their administrative. That is something that it's sort of normally done anyway in a non-virtual world regardless. So once they're the ones that set up the meeting and send out the invite, they're in control of the meeting, and they're the ones that are able to when you're controlling or hosting the meeting, you have various functions that you're able to do, and it's just different, or that you won't have access to as the chair, or unless they give you permission for that as well. Okay, so then there was a question sent to us asking, what can we share about COVID and online versus in-school information with parents. So if parents are asking you the question, it's fine that they ask you questions, but I always sort of caution what we answer with, because we don't want to go against what the principal or what the board message is. So my first thought is to say, if somebody is asking you what's the board doing about online versus in-class learning, you can tell them to go to the board website. So this slide here, this is just the board website, and it is one of those first, right on the, I forget what you call it, but anyways, on the home screen, there's a slideshow presentation. You can click this information to get there. It's also right at the top, click COVID. And then you're able to see what they're doing. So it has updates, it has Niagara Region public health updates, it has the policies or the protocols that the schools are doing to keep everything safe. So you can find out a lot of information here about what the board is doing and then what the Niagara Region is doing as well in order to keep the schools safe. But we're hoping that everybody returns to school at some point within the year. But you don't know what's going to happen with this pandemic. It's sort of unprecedented times. But please feel free to tell the parent that the best person to talk to really is their principal, be it the virtual school principal or the principal at their home school. Okay. And then responsibilities of chair. So the responsibilities of the chair it's all outlined either in the Education Act, or there's also a guide set by the Ministry of Education that you can find on the ministry's website. The guide was printed, and there's been some revisions, but the revisions are still, it was printed originally in 2001, and I think the revisions pertain to 2003. However, this is the most current thing we have. So this is what school boards, and thus your school, is supposed to be following. So part of your responsibilities is to arrange meetings. So you're going to do that in conjunction with the principal and probably with your committee as a whole as well, which nights work best. Prepare the agenda, again, with the principal. Obviously to chair the meetings, and it looks a little different this year when you are chairing virtually, and then how that works, I think, is the best just to talk with your principal about how much you want to talk versus how much they want to talk in the virtual world, because it is a little bit different. You're also supposed to make sure that there are accurate minutes recorded. And then you communicate with the principal regarding any concerns. So I've always looked at my role to be a place where parents can vent or come to you with anything that they have. And then it is, do you want to take it to the principal? Because sometimes parents just want to tell you they're having a problem, and then it doesn't need to go any further. Sometimes you want to give the principal a heads up because there's something you feel like there's a ball rolling in a direction that the principal is going to want to know about. And in my experience with the principals, they're always more willing to hear something and have it come to nothing than to be surprised about a situation. I think Tracy would probably agree with that as well.
Absolutely. I know at St. David's, I have co-chairs that for my school council, and we do meet. We actually met today virtually to set up the agenda for next week's meeting, and we always talk a little bit about what it is that they're hearing in the community. Are there questions? We just went through a reorganization, so of course there were some questions about that. So they're just good advocates for me to get the information about the concerns that parents have, so that I can address them in my my weekly memos that I send out. So
great. And now being prepared as chair. So again, you want to talk to your principal or vice principal, whichever one is sort of the designate on your committee, and talk to them about any school priorities. So I'll give you an example. When I was at Gordon Public School, the principal wanted to expand the kitchen that was there. So the priority for the school council was to really support that, because it would increase our ability to provide better breakfast club programs and better support the Niagara Nutrition Partners. So that was a big priority for our school for a bit. You may find that your school priority is the playground. Either you don't have one, or you have one that needs to be replaced in a couple of years. So that will be sort of focus on the priority on the school council throughout that. Or you may have priorities that are related to math, and that the school is, or any academic avenue. And then the principal and vice principal, they're hoping that you support them in their role in getting, I don't know, let's say more math manipulatives at the school, or increasing awareness on doing math at home, continuing dream box exercises and things like that. So you always want to know what the priorities are, what your principals are thinking, and principal to principal will change, right? So they will, they'll come into a school and decide that they want to move in this direction because they feel like the other principal sort of concluded the other priorities. So priorities can change throughout the year, or, after something's concluded. Then your school council should have a constitution, should have bylaws or a code of ethics. Most school councils have them. Most school council chairs aren't necessarily aware of them because they were created a while ago. So hopefully, if you've created them as chair, you've shared them with your principal, and there's at least a binder somewhere at the school that can be passed on to the next person. If you haven't seen one ever, just, ask your principal if you have them and things like that. They guide you in the way that you run council, the way that you make decisions. So you do not have to do Robert's rules when you are running a school council. So Robert rules are very strict. We're going to make a motion to pass this initiative. Everybody votes, and it's a 50+1 voting system and things like that. You can use consensus building, where you don't have strict votes and things like that. And all that can be decided and explained in your constitution. And what really happens is, a problem arises, and then you wish that you had your constitution. So it's better to get ahead of it and know that you have a constitution to fall back on, or that there's a code of ethics in case there's some problems with some members, and you can use that to guide the behaviors and things like that. And instead of coming up with something once you realize that somebody's upset that a decision was made, and they want to know what the vote was, and you said, well, we went with consensus, and then you find out that your constitution actually says you had to do Robert's rules, and then you can get into some trouble that way. So you're going to want to keep your lines of communication open with staff and with council members, and then as well as parents and the community at large. So hopefully you're able to hear from parents at any point in time. As chair, sometimes our emails are shared in school newsletters and things like that may get parents emailing you. Or maybe just your name on the school website is there, so parents can find you if they're, they have a question about school council, how to help out and things like that. So that is the next part on that slide, is the link for the school council's guide. It's a little lengthy, but it does have sample constitutions, sample bylaws, and sample code of ethics that you can quickly change to say your school name and pass it. So Colin is asking if you can update the school council constitution. Most definitely, there should be in the constitution a section that explains how you do that. So for the most part, you're going to, I guess best practices as set by the ministry say that you review bylaws and the constitution every 2 years. And I would think that that's, if your school council constitution is following best practices set out by the ministry, it'll say that you can adjust the school council at that point, or the constitution at that point in time. So it may be that you need to change what's considered quorum. So if you have a constitution that specifically says we have 15 school council members, and then your school council or your school becomes a French immersion school. And as such, your school, if it's double cohort or double streamed with English students, you've sort of doubled your population, and you're going to want to have a bigger or more room for more members on that school council, just because you have more people and more students, and therefore more parents and guardians that are associated with your school. So your constitution is where you would amend how many members you can have and things like that. So again, it would be specific to your constitution about how often you can, or what is the course of action for school council constitution change. But typically, again, a best practice sort of thing is that at a school council meeting, the discussion can be had about an adjustment to the school constitution. And as long as there's quorum and you pass it with 50 plus 1, you should be able to change it. So, and you may find that you need to create a constitution or bylaws. So if you go to that link with the school, from the ministry, you'll be able to find sample ones, and you can use that as a great springboard for yourself. Hopefully you're getting emails from the Parent Involvement Committee. So we tried to send out emails after our meeting just to say this is sort of what happened, here are the minutes from our last meeting and things like that, so that you're up to date on what is happening from a board perspective, and then you can share that with your school council as well. And then if you're having any questions or any concerns throughout the year as a chair, you can email us. And our school website our PIC website has the links for either a general PIC email, which will go to myself and CC'd to the board, or it has our individual email addresses where you can email myself or somebody in your region, for example. To make sure that you're on this list for emails, I can check for you with our admin assistant, Trisha, just to see if you're on it. But what happens is our admin assistant that works on for our superintendent emails out the principals, hey, who's the school council chair? And the principals from your school email back your information. So hopefully, if you got the email to come tonight, you are on our list because your principal has given us that. So, and then, so Kate, I'll look into it for you as well, because I see that you're saying that you haven't got them for 2 years. Now, again, last year being the interrupted school year, I will say that obviously we didn't send much out from March until June, because we actually didn't even meet again, so until June. So last year may have been a little bit of a wonky year, Kate, and that may have been why. So if you became chair later in the school year, or your principal didn't update our admin, and then as the year went on, it was a little bit weird of a year, that might have been the problem there. Okay. And yes, so I will do that, Trisha, as well. Okay, and I think that Jennifer's question was answered as well. So, and responsibilities. So being prepared as chair, and now we're going on to agendas. So there was a lot of questions asked about agendas and how we come up with agendas. So you do make your agenda in conjunction with the principal. And for myself, I'll explain what I do for PIC. The superintendent typically emails me and says, hey, can we have again, because it's virtual, it's been phone calls, can I call you at this time to go over the agenda? And that call always happens at least 1 week prior to our meeting, and typically 2 weeks, because with PIC it needs to go up a chain as it's a board committee. But you want to make sure you're doing it at least 1 week, even 1 week and a half, so that you can set the agenda items with your principal, and that agenda can then be shared with your school council at large on the website and things like that. So agendas can look very similar month to month. And I'll show you our PIC one after this slide, where it looks very similar, because we do things where, as far as the agenda, we say this is something, okay, so we're going to have a trustee report, we'll have a chair report, we'll have a superintendent report. And then from there, we decide who will say what and what items need to be discussed. And we don't share that on the agenda, just so that, that last minute changes can be added. Something may have been a pressing concern, but, like if something had happened COVID related and it was a pressing concern, and then the ministry changed its mind 1 week, or 2 days before our meeting, or even that afternoon and something, and now it's no longer a discussion item, we don't have to adjust our agenda at the beginning of the meeting because it's in the chair report, or it's in the superintendent's report. So it's buried information that way. And then agendas can also sort of what you're going to talk about in your superintendent, in your chair report or in your principal reports can be generated based on the time of year that you have. So not this year and not so much next year, but typically, you have EQAO results that fall in September or October meeting. Graduation falls, April, May, you might be discussing that. If you're getting information for PIC, so you may be hearing about virtual parent sessions or the conference, you can be sharing that. Information that comes from the board. So part of what needs to be shared with parents is the school year calendar, as one example. So I sit on that committee for parents, and then we vet out to school council chairs, this is the potential school council or school calendar. Is it looking like you like? Do you have any thoughts? And then if I hear back from parents, I'll bring it to the committee saying, parents love that the PA day is falling right on that long weekend in February to give it 4 days off and things like that. Sometimes there's information that comes from the ministry. And now this, you may hear from your principal, you may see it from PIC emails, or it may just be something that if you're looking at the ministry website, which I tend to do, I'll look at the news from the ministry and things like that. You may find something that you want to share. So, potentially about school closures or something that might come up. And then parent community topics of concern can also be agenda items. So if parents are coming to you and saying, oh, parking is a nightmare, you can discuss with your principal, hey, we'd like to talk about parking at tonight's meeting. And they'll say, yeah, that makes sense. I'm concerned that everybody parks in the fire lane too. And then that'll be a topic that you can discuss. But again, that doesn't necessarily have to be a listed item. It can be buried in reports as well. So for the PIC agenda, so this is just a sample agenda from our last meeting a couple of weeks ago. And you can see, so welcome always happens. Approval of new member is, it doesn't happen very often, so that's sort of unique. But adoption of agenda, business arising, superintendent's report, chair report, trustee report, and adjournment all happen in that order almost every month anyway. And then that way you can, the agenda itself doesn't need to be edited so much throughout it. And again, that goes back to your constitution. If your constitution specifically says that your agenda, if you have Robert's rules, if you would change your agenda, you do need to get approval of the agenda change and things like that. So, Yeah, so you can, so to Rebecca's point, you can discuss parking and kiss and ride at the school council. I think Tracy would agree with me that it is discussed at almost all school councils at some point in time.
Yes, it is. It has been a hot topic, I think, of every school that I've ever been at, to be honest.
Yes. And for the most part, schools have parking issues for, 15 minutes before the bell, before the exit bell at the end of the day, and maybe 10 minutes before school begins. And that's it. Then there's parking, no problem. I can think of a couple of schools that have issues, no matter what time of the day. However, it's something to be discussed. And certainly, different schools have just the way that people line up, they'll line up in fire lanes and things like that. And that can be a huge safety concern. And the principal will want to address that to school council to hopefully get the message out to parents at large, just to say, you can't park in the fire zone, and we will be ticketing, or we will be having bylaw officers or whatnot coming out to discuss why you can't do that. So for sure. Yeah. So then, I like to send the agenda out prior to the meeting. So typically with PIC, what we have established is the agenda goes out Monday. Our meetings are always on a Wednesday. And that allows people to be reminded that, oh yeah, there's a meeting this week. Too far in advance, people might forget. And day of, again, people might go, oh yeah, I've already, I forgot and I made other plans. So I like that 3-day buffer. That sort of helps it. And then Stanford Collegiate shared with us a great tip that I think I love, that they've been sharing their agenda on a slideshow in this virtual world. And that allowed people to stay involved and helps you know where you were in the meetings and things like that. For myself as chair, I know that, if I have the agenda, especially in the virtual world, right, my agenda is sort of printed off somewhere, or it's on a computer screen, and it always looks like I'm not paying attention because I'm looking down or over and things like that. So if it's shared with everybody, it just looks nice, I think. So good job, Stanford. I think if just looking at Darko's question, you're having issues with the company hired to monitor, give tickets. Again, you're a volunteer chair at the school. That is really something that the principal will be looking into. So you can, you can ask, how is it going and things like that. But, it's not really on you to solve the problem, I would say. I hope that gives you some direction for that. Okay, and now every school council's issue, I think, is recruitment. And I think Tracy says that she has a real healthy school council at St. David's, but most schools do have problems with recruitment, be it, the first month, 50 people showed up, and by June, you have 4 people that are coming, or you have 4 people that show up right at the beginning, and they stick it out throughout the school year, but you never felt like you had a big community. So don't be concerned, if you feel like you're the only school council that doesn't have a lot of members. You're not. This is a province-wide problem. I attend, some conferences with the Ministry of Education, with chairs of PICs throughout Ontario, and this is something that everybody has. So it's not that unique to you. So we're having 2 people chime in. One say 50 people show up. We have 4 on a good night. Yeah. So, I did at one school on the September meeting, we had, I think, 50 or 60 people show up. October, we had a special meeting to adjust our constitution to allow more members. And by June, we were down to about 10. So, 50 people showing up on the first night does not necessarily mean that everybody's there. And, I think that councils can be, too many cooks in the kitchen at one time too, if you have too many people there. So for the email question, this is really something you're going to want to talk with your principal about. So the board does have some concerns about privacy issues and things like that. So if your principal is saying they'll be the ones that will email. So in my experience, what I've had is that anybody who signs up with school council, I've been given their emails, but we're certainly not given emails for all the schools in the parents to contact them. Your principal will probably be comfortable with you getting emails on the first meeting from those that have attended, knowing that you as chair are getting those emails addresses, but not the entire school address. So you might want to, some schools that it's run by the school principal and things like that, but have social media. Jean Sauvé and Central and DSPN Academy, I follow a lot of schools on schools on social media, and those ones seem to post quite frequently, and they'll post things like, we're having a school council meeting tonight, or school council is next month. So if your principal is already doing some social media, you might ask them to include school council night meetings and things like that. Your school website will, all DSPN school websites are somewhat similar. So there is already a tab for school council information. So again, you can talk with your principal about how to make that the most relevant information, that you're the chair or these are the meeting nights and things like that, and that the information isn't out of date. So it's not from 3 years ago and no longer is applicable. Certainly in the virtual world, teachers have platforms. So you might be able to share, or you might be able to get your principal to ask teachers to put it on their classroom platforms that there's meetings, and in school newsletters if you're still doing that as well. And I'm a big fan of finding a strategy that works for your school. So if your school says the 4th Tuesday of the month works and you're getting a great turnout, there's no need to change it, right? Some schools like to try things that are alternating nights, and that works as well for them. So I think, Tracy, you do it alternating nights, correct?
We do it, actually, we're a 4th Tuesday of the month group. We do it right after the staff meeting night for us, yeah.
Right, yes. So the one thing that I've noticed when I've been on school councils with alternating nights, you have people say, oh, I can't make Tuesday, but I can make Thursday. And other people say they can't make Tuesday, or they can't make Thursday, they can't make Tuesday. So in an effort to include both of those people, you say, we'll switch every month. And then you find those people never show up anyway. And the people that would have shown up had it been on the 4th Tuesday of the night are the ones that are coming anyway. So find what works with you. And that includes, some council meetings maybe that you ask at the end of the meeting, like you have a general idea that it's going to be on Thursdays, but does this one work for you? And does this one not work? And yes, it is very difficult to accommodate everyone. In a personal way, I've always felt that, you may know your parent group very well. You may know the parents that are going to show up a lot or participate a lot and things like that. So you really want to make sure that those people are the ones that are able to come. So if you have newbies coming and saying that they may not be able to attend one night or the other night, and then you isolate parents that have participated a lot in the past, it might not be the best solution, I guess. So you can have blaze calls go out to the school council or to all parents saying that members or that the school council is meeting, and then certainly email to the school councils. And tell your school counselor, tell parents about school council. Not everybody knows that school council exists. Not everybody knows what they do or what's going on. So that's a great way. And you may find that surveys and polls work for your school. You may find that they don't. In my experience, it is very, it's not consistent. Some schools, it works very well. Lots of people participate. At other schools, it doesn't. So, it's just up to you, again, as a volunteer, how much work you want to put into it. So now, Glennie Green shared with us that on their website, so this is just sort of taken from their website, and it shows throughout the year, these are general things that we're going to be discussing. And then this way, it allows parents to maybe go, oh, you know what, I'm not concerned about EQAO results or the fundraising committee, but I do want to know about leadership opportunities for the intermediate students, and I do want to know about, parent, the fun fair and things like that. So that'll allow parents to say, I'll go to these ones, but I won't necessarily go to another one. And that may increase your membership because people are coming out for things that interest them, versus things that, or they don't even know what's discussed and they think it's just going to be about fundraising all the time, and they say they don't want to sell to their friends, and they're not comfortable. So this gives an idea of what school councils will be doing throughout the year, and it'll help people decide, hopefully, whether or not they want to come. And then, there's typical things that happen throughout a school year. So, in September, you're going to have elections. There's $500 PIC funds, and you might want to set up goals for the new year. And so I think we're on the next slide. Let's see it changing there. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And then in October, November, you may be discussing EQA results, school improvement plans, and really how council can help. And that is the ultimate goal of school councils, is how they can assist with the school improvement plan. And the school improvement plan feeds into the board improvement plan as well. And those are developed in September, October of every year as well. So we'll get to fundraising in a second, Rebecca, don't worry. January, February, you might want to review some policies under review with the school board. The draft calendar should be out for you to give feedback. In April, you may have some guest speakers or sessions for next year. You might want to do a climate survey or talk about the climate survey that's going to be conducted. And then in May, June, you're going to do an assessment of school council, a wrap up, and maybe an annual report. So those things sort of happen every year. And you can just, plan to discuss those things as well as others that come up that are unique to your community throughout the school year. And if that's on your school website, that might help guide parents into going, okay, yeah, this is what I want to help with, and things like that.
Lisa,
Lisa,
can I jump in for a sec? I know that one of the things that I have found in years past that helps to bring people in, but also keep them coming back, is to really ask about things they want to know more about. So this year, for instance, when I asked the members of the council what they were interested in learning more about, one of the things they wanted to learn more about was the new math curriculum and ways that they could help their children deal with the anxiety of COVID. So our next school council session, we will have, and then generally it's a shorter presentation because there obviously is other business to do. So about a 15-20 minute presentation about something that the council has asked for information, and it would be pertinent to things that are going on. So right now, obviously the new math curriculum is important and people want to know more information. So it's just something that will bring people that are interested in learning a little bit more about some of the things that are going on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, great advice. because yeah, parents definitely, the point of school council is to have parents have an avenue for a voice to the school, to the board, and to the ministry at large and things like that. So asking them what they're concerned about and what they want to learn more about certainly enables that voice the best. So thank you. So we have a couple of other points about recruitment that you might find helpful. You know, you can do a draw for a Timmy's card, tell people to bring a friend. I've always found it important to go around the school council and introduce themselves. So typically we would do that for this session. There's just too many people with us tonight to do it. But you know, knowing when my son was in JK, the first school council meeting I went to, there was no introduction. Everybody seemed to know each other, and except for myself, and it felt very lonely and isolating. So I think always trying to make your council welcome so that somebody doesn't turn away from coming back next time, because, you know, especially if it's their first time, they don't have a lot of friends and people that they may know on council. So it's important to introduce and let everybody know, remember each other's names and things like that as well. And so, you know, try to start and end on time. You know, don't give parents a lot of jobs the first time they show up. And, you know, again, keep in mind your mandate of school councils, and your mandate is to talk about school improvement. So if somebody goes off on a personal issue, or a concern that they're having with their child and their teacher or something, that's really not school council business. And you want to try to steer it away from that topic and say, you know, I hear that you're having concern. I'm certainly here to talk to you at a later time, but we want to make sure that we're focused on tonight's, our mandate and things like that. So what can councils do in 2020 or 2020 rather? It's a little different this year, obviously. So you can still have virtual events. So one things that you might want to do are some speaker series, including online safety, which is always very popular with parents, helping your child in math, keeping your child engaged with online learning. You might have some speakers that can do that. Your principal will definitely know about presenters with the board that can help them as well for those things. And then you might want to do a community night to get parents from, you know, not just focused on the hardcore things, school council, but learning about having fun nights. So trivia nights or a holiday craft night, a virtual paint night, things like that as well. And so now here we're talking about fundraising, which is the hot topic now. So it is a role played by school council. You may be surprised to know that that is not the your main function as a school council, however. So don't feel that you need to do fundraising, certainly this year. 2020 is a different year. And you're going to get direction from your principals this year. So some principals know the school the best. They know the community, they know the parents, and they know what the school needs and the school budget. So your principal may be saying to you, you know what, this year I'm going to be looking first and foremost at us not doing fundraising because, you know, we are set for the playground. We have a trophy case, our uniforms are good, and I know that people are struggling with COVID and job losses and things like that, so we're not going to be doing fundraising, and that's perfectly fine. You do not have to do fundraising. Other schools, the principal may say, you know what, I think that we will do some fundraising, and that's fine, and then there are different fundraisings that you can do through school council, and certainly you can ask PIC or anybody that has done school fundraisings before. You can send out a message, hey, what's worked for you and what hasn't. But again, you're going to want to take that direction from your principal as they know what the school needs the most this time of year.
I think as well, Lisa, what we think about as well is on the community, based on the community, that there are a number of families that may be in a different financial place this year. Loss, being laid off, or lots of different situations this year. So yeah, it is definitely something that has to be a discussion with the principal for sure.
Yeah. And again, there's sort of no right or wrong. It is, it's right for you. There's no standard right or wrong in this situation right now. So, okay. And then what is PIC doing? So obviously we're having no in-person conference this year, which is quite unfortunate. But we are having a speaker series throughout the school year, tonight obviously being the first. But we are having another one on December 9th, mental health, and our next slide will give you a little bit more information about it. And we do have some others planned in 2021. And somebody asked about programs. So programs have sort of been done away with by the Ministry of Education at this point. What's happening is some money is going to PICs. And then PICs throughout the province are pretty much using it. So we're using it to be able to host some virtual sessions. There certainly isn't as much money as there used to be going out. And board to board, the money differs. So some boards are getting a lot more than other boards, and they're able to do a bit more. But we're hoping that our speaker series really helps with parents and schools, and you will still get that $500 PIC money that you can use to do a virtual speaker though as well. So we will have Anne Murray speak on December 9th. We're just setting up the registration process now. But it's a great virtual series it's about taking care of you, and it really focuses on the stresses that we were going to be having because of because of COVID, and what's changed in our world and how that's difficult, as well as how your stress level affects your children and things like that. So once registration is up, it'll be on our website, and you'll be able to look into that. And we have some other speakers like that. So Tricia, can we attend? Whoops. Can we attend other meetings even if we're not part of PIC Council? So if you mean other committee meetings, the board has several committee meetings or committees, including PIC. And those are all open meetings. So sometimes they might have a closed session where it's just the trustees and superintendents talking. But there's a portion that will open up, and as they're virtual now, when you go on the school board's website, you can go to, I believe it's the About section, and under the About, it'll have board and committee meetings. And then if you click there, then you can go to that committee that you want to attend. They'll have the agenda posted usually a week before, and then there's usually a link that you can listen live as a virtual guest if you're interested in doing that. I will say this as well, though, PIC is always interested in getting new members. So if you would love to join PIC, we would love to have you. Right now, we currently have roles for pretty much all the municipalities in Niagara. So pretty much anywhere you can join, and we would love to have you. So I hope that answers your question, Tricia. And then if you do have other questions that we weren't able to get to tonight, here's our contact info. If you'd like to contact us at a later date. And I certainly try to get back to emails pretty quickly, and certainly you can call me as well if you're having other questions or concerns that you would like to look into. So yeah, not sure if I missed Other questions? Tracy, did you have something you wanted to conclude with as well?
Can I say something?
Yes, you can.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Simon Hancock's superintendent of schools, and actually I work with Tracy and Lisa on the PIC committee. And I just wanted to say thank you all for being here tonight. It was great to see such a big turnout and learning about school councils and your commitment to working with our schools and working with our students and how powerful that work can be. And under these conditions in COVID, it's even more important. So thank you for all that you do. And it was great to see all the questions and interactive things. So I think it's been Lisa and Tracy have done an amazing job, and I wanted to take a moment just to thank them for their time and putting this all together and their hard work. So thank you to Lisa and Tracy, and thank you all. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. We love doing it, right, Lisa?
Yes, absolutely. That's why I'm still doing it.
That's right. That's why we're still here.
That's right. Yes. So, yeah, I definitely think both Tracy and Simon, the committee works very well. We're very lucky to have Simon on as our superintendent now. So, his work on getting this night organized and our presentation with Anne Murray has been outstanding. And I'm sure, as you can imagine, they're very busy this time of year because of COVID and everything else. So thank you so much for all of your work, Simon, as well, because it's been impeccable. So
and please do reach out and email either one of us if you have questions. We have no problem giving you any advice that we certainly have.
Yes. So thank you very much. And we hope to see you in the future. I did see that Trisha, Kate, and Kelly asked me to just check in to see if they're getting emails with our superintendent or from the PIC emails and things like that. So if anybody else wants to send me an email, go ahead and just say, to check in, things like that. So, okay, and then Michelle as well. I'm not sure if we've said too much out this year either, to be fair. It has been, again, a weird year. But I will look into that as well. And I think I can remember your last name, Michelle. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Have a great night, everyone.